lot going on in the world, and there's always something to be worried about. And now I think the latest thing is banks collapsing or financial crisis. There's always something that you need to be thinking about. And whenever there's unrest, you seem to get a lot more of that as people panic or get crazy. There's a lot of more home invasion and just burglary in general.
Yeah.
And
Well, you see, during the pandemic, crime went through the roof, and
right,
that's really because everybody was out of work. That whatever it was,
exactly,
the stimulus checks go so far, but if you were unemployed and your wife was unemployed, and you got kids and grocery bills are going up and you can't find toilet paper, people get a little weird.
exactly. So there's a lot of things that you can do that are basic obvious steps. um One of the things they always talk about is like OPSEC, and it's kind of a little bit different thing with home security. I think OPSEC is what comes to mind for me with home security is not putting your brand new tractor on Facebook.
Right.
Um, Not putting, you leave all your cool stuff just kind of laid out in the front lawn. I know I had a kid who always used to leave his bike, right out front. And I'm like, you got to put your bike back in the shed. And sure
Mm-hmm.
enough, one day the bike is gone,
Wasn't there?
and somebody took it, and some other kid is out there happy riding your bike. And that's what happens. So, but it doesn't just work for kids. You leave your four-wheeler out in the yard because you're too lazy to put it away, then it's kind of like, hey, come take my stuff. So thinking about
I
that
had a
stuff
I had a push
is,
lawnmower
yeah,
stolen from my yard once, and that 100% my fault. Um, and then I was talking to a police officer a couple weeks later, and he's like, I saw a guy pushing a lawnmower down the side of the highway last week after it was stolen. He goes, I just assumed he was going to mow some friend's lawn, but I mean, the
right.
guy
You
worked
just
for it.
don't know.
It wasn't a ride-on mower; it was a push mower, and
Hey, that's commitment.
he apparently had miles and miles to go to take it. So good luck, sir. Enjoy
Yeah,
that $200
exactly.
lawnmower that took you 4 hours to steal.
Hey, wouldn't you rather have that lawnmower? That's a win. He still got something.
Mm-hmm. Right, right. And he worked for it. I mean, he earned it.
Yeah, that's so. Anyway, think of ways to, like, one, keep your stuff hidden, and that's really the OPSEC stuff. You don't want
Right.
your house. I
I
know we've
don't.
mentioned this before. You don't want your house to look like there's something worth taking. Like when it's the armed
Right.
fortress with cameras visible everywhere and all that nonsense. You need to think about that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there is the idea of deterrence. If you put like a security alarm sign in your front yard, you know, this house is protected by ADP or whatever it is, you might get somebody to go to the next door neighbors, but there's a certain point where people see that house and like they really have something that they're trying to protect in there.
Right. And when the power's out or when they know that the cops aren't responding, then and
Hmm.
we like to think that that never happens. Oh, there's never a time when 911 won't work.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's
Right.
not really true. So it turns out they do get overwhelmed, and it does take some time for them to respond sometimes. So just be aware of that. And again, with a major power outage, with major, criminals and the the less savory types might take advantage of that. And that's something to, keep in mind. But just be aware of what's going on. So anyway, how can we basically make our house a little bit more secure?
Well,
What are some
start
things to
with
add?
the outer perimeter and work our way into the house. So
All
the
right.
first thing I would say is setting up perimeter alarms. Like
Oh,
if you have a long driveway or something like that, um, it'll give you a little bit of heads up that somebody's heading in.
Right. So yeah, I always saw for 35 bucks, I see this driveway alarm, and it has a half mile transmitting power.
Hmm.
Was pretty cool. So you could put one back. I plan to, I haven't yet, back at the barn doors, to keep things from, hey, somebody gets in there. And again, you maybe even put it right inside the barn door. If somebody opens it and goes in, it depends on the wildlife activity, by your yard. If,
Right.
or you could set up like a blind spot so that it's between, only the front foot of my barn door, so a deer walking by isn't really going to be a problem. But I know if somebody goes and opens my door and goes in and is loading my tractor out or whatever,
Hmm.
that
Right.
kind of thing, that matters. Obviously a driveway that could be far away, or maybe a side yard that kids keep coming through, whatever it is you're worried about, the angry squirrels, whatever's bothering you,
Hmm.
a driveway alarm could be
Those
a good
squirrels.
step.
Yeah. After
Fencing?
that,
Oh,
I would
yeah.
move into fences.
Yeah.
Anyone can climb a fence. Even a basic, wooden stockade fence, though, is going to keep people from being able to see what you have around. Um, let it be a surprise. They have to hop up and look over the fence to see what you got in your yard to even, get started thinking about something.
Right. And then when you have the angry pit bull sitting there, it's kind of a, oh, maybe I
Right.
shouldn't have jumped there.
Yeah. Right. Right. And it's not really realistic to put a big stockade fence all the way around your property. Some people do it. If you have a small yard and you live in an urban area, you can do that. That's a good idea. Um, and obviously, you can go up from a stockade fence to chain link with barbed wire on top. You could do cinder block or cement walls with broken glass on the top.
Right.
You can
Right.
you can get
I
as big
know
as
in,
you want to get.
right. In New York, I know the old Italians, there was maybe one wall builder, because I'd see them all around the town, that I lived in there, that would put like kind of jagged stonework on the top of the stone walls. And
So you can't climb over.
it would
Right.
make it just uncomfortable.
Right.
Again, it's not that anybody couldn't jump over it. It's just that it wasn't going to be easy to jump over it.
Hmm.
And that's something, you might want to consider.
When I was in South America, in Argentina, it was commonplace that everybody had an 8 foot concrete wall around their house. I mean, in South America. If somebody breaks into your house and you want the police, you have to go to the police station and fill out a report. They're not coming to your house to help you.
There's no
Uh,
911 hotline.
nah, they're not rolling out there. They don't have that kind of manpower down there because they whatever. I mean, that's probably better. I'd prefer that kind of system myself, but um, what are you gonna do?
Yeah,
Uh,
no, exactly. I mean, it's what the budgets dictate. You decide what you want out of the world, right? People
right,
are like, oh, we don't need government. And then when they're like, well, you understand there's no firefighters, no
right. Nobody's coming.
policemen, no ambulance. It's
Hmm.
like, well, maybe I want a little bit of government,
Yeah,
and then,
yeah. So there when I was staying there, there's Resistencia was the name of the town in Argentina,
okay.
and it was standard that everybody had dogs and everybody had high walls around their house.
Was it a dog pack or just dogs?
Everybody had a couple of dogs too, at
All
least.
right.
The house I was staying at, they had their dogs were really friendly. Like I don't think they would bite anybody if they broke into the house. But next door, they had a couple of Dobermans there, and I don't know if I would
They
have
set the
messed around with
standard.
them.
Yeah, you didn't want to jump over their fence.
Right.
Yeah, no, that sounds right.
Um. After fences, though, I think another great thing for the outside perimeter is the motion activated floodlights. Some places that I guess that there are rules against those in certain
Really?
places,
Okay.
like homeowners associations and things like that. You have to pay attention, but honestly, whatever. Screw those people.
All
Um,
right.
but you can set those up. so that they're, you don't want them facing towards your house. You don't want to be blinded through your window. You want it facing away, in your house, facing towards your property, or you know on your property, away from your
Right.
house, but not
You,
facing towards your house. You
right.
want to
But your
light them up,
neighbor's
not
window,
light
that's
you up.
okay. Right.
Right.
Yeah, you can do whatever. But yeah, no, protecting your own, that's exactly what it's about. The I know Sunforce makes some pretty cool solar ones that come on through motion and work out really great. They're available on Amazon.
Yeah, I have a couple of them, and they're
Right. And
nice.
they
They work
just
well.
they work well and they're great for, something that's going to be out away, an outbuilding that maybe doesn't have an electricity,
Right.
a
Right.
shed
It's
or
just got
something
a
like
little
that.
solar plant panel. I mean, everybody's got those little solar lights now where, you have them in your backyard or your whatever. But
They're
these are,
great.
they're floodlights and they're bright.
Right.
They
And
they
they'll
work.
collect all day and then, just if you use them sparingly, maybe not your all night long light. Although
Hmm.
I've used some of them for where I get like a good 4 hour shot. It'll charge up all day and then 4 hours of bright light, into the night or whatever. And
Right.
it gives you a little more, security around the homestead kind of thing. Um, Now think about bushes and stuff. Um, they talk about, you don't want it that somebody can just kind of like walk up on your porch and slip in your window. Or a lot of times people will have lower side windows
Hmm.
on their house. Maybe having some bushes or something. Again, bushes that would make it uncomfortable to want to climb through there,
Right. Not something
not
that's just going
bushes
to
to
conceal
hide.
you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to hide criminals hiding outside your window. That's the kind of thing. You want to make it a bush that nobody wants to hide in.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I had heard somebody talking about putting poison ivy around the
oh,
outside of their house, and that
it
just
has
seems
long term
dumb.
benefits, but
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
not gonna
have.
stop somebody from getting in your house. They're not even gonna realize they're rolling around in poison ivy
Right.
until they already have all your stuff at their house.
A week later, they're going to be like, no.
Yeah. I
Or
mean, rose
2 days,
bushes look
3 days,
nice and they've
whatever.
got thorns, and, that's,
Yeah.
depending on the sunlight you have around your house, that might be a good option. But there's a lot of, you know, bad looking bushes that also have prickers all over them
Yeah,
that grow anywhere.
exactly. Next, now there's a couple options for your windows. So we talked about, you know, maybe how to obscure your windows from the outside. The next thing is you want to have good locks on your windows and make sure they're actually locked when they're closed.
Right.
Now I know sometimes summer months we want to open our windows or have screens and different things like that. I got you there. We're going to talk about that. But having a solid lock for when it's not, you know, not summertime,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a plus. So that's step one. Step two, 3M makes a sheet film that you can not quite, you're not exactly making your windows bulletproof, but let's say hammer and pry bar and rock through the window proof.
Right.
And
Right.
they
It'll
make
make it a
something
lot more
called,
difficult to get
right.
through that window.
Now, if you went on Amazon and searched like 3M security film, this is they sell this stuff, and I think I saw like 36 inches by 12 feet was like $40. Um, you can buy it with a mirror tint. You can buy it with a like tinted windows. You can buy even like kind of colored tints. They have a bunch of options available to you.
Hmm.
And with that, basically, I watch videos. I mean, you'd have to see the different thicknesses and what you choose. It's kind of one of those you get what you pay for. But they had people kind of smacking with a baseball bat, and it's basically a minute or two
Right.
before they can get through. And especially if you have something like a big glass slider or something like that you're worried about,
Hmm.
um, it buys you time, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Slows things down
Can
a little
somebody
bit.
shoot a gun through it? Yeah. But can somebody shoot a gun through your wall? Yeah. So,
Hmm.
whatever. And at least if you're that paranoid, you could do the tint where it's mirrored or something so they can't even see where they're aiming at.
Right.
That would buy you just like them shooting blindly through your wall.
Hmm.
Um, The that's an option. The let me see. A
Well,
3M
the other
film. The other option would be bars, or where were you
right.
going to go? Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's what I was going to talk about. Now, a lot of
Uh,
people don't like those because they don't look good. It looks like you've got bars on your windows. You know what I mean? It looks like your
yeah.
house is a prison, but they're effective. They work.
And we can
Um,
look into some like decorative options. There are
right.
some things that you're always going to look like you have bars on your window.
Hmm.
And depending how much coverage you're getting. Now, a lot of other people will consider shutters. Shutters are good, but again, they're not stopping bullets unless you're having big iron shutters. And if
Right.
you have steel shutters, it's gonna, like obviously shooting targets, I shoot at 3/8 inch plate, right? With the
Hmm.
5.56.
Right.
So if you had 3/8 inch steel shutters, but those are serious shutters, and people don't understand the weight that would be required
Right.
there, but it's an option. I
Yeah.
mean, you got to keep your options open. I have plywood for I had a source to get plywood really cheap, and I have a lot of plywood available to me. And I actually have stacks that I can cover all my windows with plywood, and that's great for visibility. And it's honestly great for a guy with a pry bar or a guy with
Hmm.
different things. It's going to slow them down, but it's not going to stop bullets. But what really is, right?
Right.
Unless you're living in the steel house, the other option you need to start looking into if you're worried about that is like sandbags and
Hmm.
something that's really going to put a
Yeah, I
stop
know in a
to
lot
things.
of places with high crime, a lot of the houses are actually built with cement and cinder blocks and bars on the windows. That's normal. That's standard practice in a lot of places in a lot of countries.
Right. No, that's definitely a way to go. So you just have to decide what's right for your area. All
Right.
right. Now, what other things can we do? So, one, I hate to say it, some of you are going to be shocked and offended, but having a firearm,
Yeah.
that's an important part to your home security. And then I would add step two, learning how to use your firearm accurately.
Yeah,
It's an
buying a
important.
handgun and putting it in your night, loading it, putting it in your nightstand, and then never using it is a good way to end up accidentally shooting your kid or something. You know what I mean? No, you should know how to operate a firearm. I'm not saying don't keep a loaded handgun. What I'm saying is know how to use a loaded handgun. Know how to handle a gun. That that there's a lot of people I know that own firearms that have
Right.
went to the range one time and that was it. Good
Right.
enough.
Now that's very typical of how people are. I mean, I know a lot of cops who shoot once a year when they qualify.
Yep,
And I'm like, are
that's
you
it.
kidding me?
2 hours a year is enough.
Yeah. Oh, I go qualify, I shoot, and I just have to hit like a man-sized target. If I hit it anywhere in there, I'm good. I'm
Right.
not saying all cops have that standard and whatever. I'm sure, LAPD or something, they're going to the range 5 times a week and whatever.
Yeah,
That
I don't
all
know
may
about
be.
that.
No.
Well, I mean,
Um,
I work right next to a police firing range, and it's like you said, it's once a year, two
yeah,
hours once a year, and maybe those guys go somewhere else and do it on their own time.
right.
But for qualifying with firearms, it's once a year for 2 hours in this particular town. I'm
Right.
not saying that
Right.
every
So
place is
just
different,
assume
but
small town, people aren't exactly training. And if
hmm.
you actually can hit somebody, that's hey, whew, more power to you.
Hmm.
That's it. I can go out with my handgun and I'm hitting the 8 inch steel circle at 50 yards. 50 yards is awesome
Hmm.
with a handgun,
Right.
and that's how
And the
you should
truth is,
be.
with a handgun, it's never going to be 50 yards. It's always going to be closer than that.
Right. It's going to be 10 or less is realistic,
Hmm.
which ten yards is 30 feet. That's
Right.
still, or it's like 27 or something. Yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
But you get the idea.
Right.
It's still significant. Um, all right. What else? I mean, so yeah, obviously
Well, I
it's
wanted.
funny. Hang on. One of my kids was like, oh, I have this umbrella that I have for security that I keep by the door. So if somebody comes in, I can
What?
poke them. Yeah, that's what I said. And I was like, but you left a walking stick outside the door that they can pick up and automatically have a better weapon than you do.
Right.
I'm like, think about what you're doing. And they were like, oh, so I should remove the walking stick? And I'm like, no, no, actually, the walking stick is good because now when I shoot them, I can be like, look, they had a weapon. They had a
Yeah.
stick when they were coming in.
Yeah.
It's
Um,
just understand your weapon, you know?
yeah, I don't, yeah. Well, let's talk about doors real quick.
Okay.
So there's obviously some basic fundamentals, putting the 3-inch deck screws in your hinges and putting deadbolts and things like that. That should be something that's obvious to everybody. The more steel you have keeping your door closed, the better off you're going to be.
Right.
Um, and people have multiple doors. It's just something to think about around your house. If you can just slide a deadbolt on every door in your house before you go to bed, you know. But here's another thing: a lot of people don't even lock their doors at night. You know,
I know it.
so I mean that would be the first step is just locking your door. Um,
And actually go around. I mean, honestly, you'd probably be 30% ahead of your neighbors if you walked around and made sure every window that was closed is actually locked.
yeah,
And then when you start opening and closing them, you actually lock them. When you do,
hmm
I hear a lot of people are like, oh, well, they don't lock really good. They don't close that good anymore. The plastic's starting to flex and,
hmm
get funny.
yeah,
Well, yeah, you have to do something about that.
yeah. Joke's on you! All my windows are painted shut.
Oh, there you go. That's a
Now
winner.
you could also get now. There's for 10 grand. I was looking this
Oh,
up for 10 grand.
tell
It's
me.
$10,500. You can get a man trap door system, which is it's
Yes.
basically a vestibule that you would have in your entrance where you have to open and close one door before you can open the second door. In other words, you can buzz somebody in from inside into the vestibule and then just
Okay.
leave them there. You know what I
Ooh,
mean? They're just going to
yeah.
be trapped till the cops show up. I mean, I don't know what you're into. Maybe you're into like, weird torture stuff. Maybe you're, you know, the people under the stairs type people, and that's just something you're into. Maybe you want to call the cops. I don't know what you do in your private life. It's none of my
Right.
business.
You might have a backhoe in a
Yeah,
hole and
do whatever
whatever.
you want with the person once you got them trapped in there.
Right.
Um,
Somebody mentioned metal doors. Metal
yeah,
doors are great, and they are not that expensive. Although I know I was looking at some on Amazon that were like 2,500, but it was like a big double door, and it looked awesome. And
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
I mean, anything can be whatever you want it to be, right? But there are
right,
reasonably priced metal doors that make it so much easier. Dude, my door, it's still like thin pine. Like you could
yeah,
just like punch through it. My
hmm
front door. They never know what they're gonna get on the other side, but they it's not exactly the stronghold. And my wife and I have had many discussions about it already of how it
right,
needs to be upgraded. I do have a good storm door that's really heavy, and actually, you'd have a harder time getting through the storm door on the outside than you would getting
right,
through the door on the inside. But yeah,
right. But it's one of the things that we're talking about here is defense in depth. You know what I mean? You want to have a series of steps that are going to prevent you from getting your house robbed or broken into. Home invasion is a crime that doesn't happen very often, but when it
yes,
does, it's bad. It does
right,
never end well for anybody involved. Um, but I mean, your door is the typical place that somebody's going to try and get in before they even
yes,
try for the windows. So that should be your first step is making sure you have. And like you said, those metal doors come with big metal frames,
yes,
and it's a lot harder to break those doors down. It would be easier to pick a lock on something
right.
like that than it would be to break it down. Um,
Exactly. And that's the kind of thing that, an extra step, an extra layer. And that's the thing too. Like you can upgrade your lock from maybe quickset to Schlage, or you can go from Schlage to better quality locks that are actually gonna, be tougher to pick. And there's all different levels. And that's the thing. You can have things that you can just lock from the inside.
Right.
That's another option too, where you're not leaving a lockpick set, as your line of defense. You're
Right. Exactly. Exactly. And when you have something like a deadbolt, that you can just close from in the inside and lock it when you're in there. You can't use it when you're away,
right,
but something like that is really gonna slow things down because it's not, you know,
right,
it's not as easy to break a door down that's got some, got some security features added to it.
right. And you had mentioned the hinges and bigger screws, and
hmm
you know,
Yeah, your strike plate, all that stuff. You know, it's just worth tightening things up. All these systems come with these little 1 inch screws and stuff like that, and you can replace them easy enough, and it'll add a, it'll slow things down. Anything that you talk about though, if somebody really wants to get in your house, they
yeah,
can. Anything we're talking about is just an extra layer of defense, but it's not nothing is ever going to be a perfect system.
right,
Um, Now, a lot of people have alarm systems, like the Ring cameras and that sort of stuff. Um, they're very inexpensive now, and they're very
right.
cheap.
Now, Ring
Specifically,
does,
Ring though,
yeah. Go
I
ahead.
I would not recommend it. They If somebody breaks into the house across your street, the police can actually talk to. Is it Amazon that owns that now?
Amazon owns Ring, yeah,
Yeah, so they can get access to your camera even if your house wasn't broken into without you even, you know, having to be told about it. So
right.
I mean,
Because
it's
in
just
theory, they're thinking, oh, it's a public space, it's
right.
outside, you have
hmm
no privacy.
Right.
So yeah, think about what you're doing. I have like some Chinese company security cameras or something, and I did take a really long time committing to cameras.
hmm
But I gotta say, now that I did, I mean, it was like nothing. It was like $120 or something, and they make ones that are wireless, and I don't have to pay money a month. I just pull it up on my phone, and I can, because as long as the home box is connected to my Wi-Fi, it sends it out to the internet, which somebody else can look at my cameras probably if they're a hacker or whatever.
hmm
But whatever, they're going to see my
Yeah.
outside yard if that's what they want to
Xi
do.
Jinping in China is actually
Right.
watching your yard all the time.
Right.
That's what he
And
does
when
in
I'm
his
out peeing in
meetings.
the front lawn, he knows about it.
Right.
Sure. But I also have the upside of, hey, who broke in my chicken coop last night?
Right.
Or, hey, who was over looking around my yard, and, whatever.
hmm
Anything happens, I know what's going on. And I made the effort and had to do wired cameras because in a log house, the Wi-Fi is a little questionable,
Is it?
transmitting about. But they make Wi-Fi cameras that if you're in most houses, you could just screw them up, and for $100, you're like camera and rolling in no time.
Right.
If you wanted to message us at preppingbadass@gmail.com, I'd be happy to show you what cameras I think I was talking about. But really, there's a lot of great options out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Now let's talk about you know, economic collapse,
Oh,
solar flare, shit gets crazy, the banks close, nobody can get money, things are getting wild outside.
okay.
And it's just you. It's just you and your wife, and maybe you got two little kids. They can't even hold guns yet. You got to have full force multipliers. So let's talk about a couple of these things. Um, Now, foot traps. It's
Oh,
basically a bear trap, and it's very much against the law to set those up in your property in the United States and in most places. However, in England, you can actually set up a bear trap as long as it's inside your house between sunset and sunrise as a defense for burglars. Um, I don't know. Maybe it's worth having one. I don't know. It's a little bit creepy to me to to let somebody step into something like that. But I mean, because you don't know who's going to set it off. That's the problem with these types of things. It's in the United States. It's illegal all the time because I guess firefighters and the EMTs try and get in your house after you have a heart attack and call 911 and pass out. It's against the law to have them anywhere ever. But let's talk about spring traps. That's basically like a shotgun, right? Shotgun trap. So this was a common thing in the United States. People would set it up. But there was one event that kind of changed things. In 1971 in Iowa, a guy named Briney inherited a house, and it was kind of back in the woods, and it was pretty much abandoned. And he a guy named Catco was out there hunting, and he came across this house. And he went into the house. He thought it was abandoned. He went into the house and found a bunch of bottles in there, like preserves and stuff like that. And he collected bottles. So he took all the bottles with him. And when the guy came to take a look at his house, he saw that somebody had gone in and taken stuff out of it. So he set up a spring trap with a shotgun. And his wife convinced him to not have it aimed like mid-level, but have it aimed at, towards the legs, towards, lower down. And so, it worked. The guy came into the house again to look for bottles, and it pretty much blew his leg off. It just mutilated his front leg, as he stepped through the door. And he sued him. And yeah, apparently that's against the law to do it. Now, it's not against the law because you can't defend your home.
Right.
It's against the law because protecting property is not more important than protecting life. That's what the courts ruled. So if you were in your house and you shot somebody that broke in, that's different than if you're not around and you just have a trap set like that.
Okay.
So there was a big lawsuit, and a lot of other states misunderstood what the situation was, and there's a whole bunch of laws passed afterwards in different states saying, no, you can defend your house. But it's still the same situation in almost all these states where you can defend yourself when you're in your house, but you can't just set up a trap like that will indiscriminately shoot whoever comes through your door if you're not around.
Right.
That doesn't mean you can't set it up, especially if shit's getting crazy, And
Yeah.
it's pretty easy to do. A little bit of baling wire and a shotgun, and you're set to go, man. But I would recommend that you have it aimed towards somebody's chest, not somebody's legs.
No.
If you're gonna
You got to
set it
put
up,
them down
don't
because
bang
they
them.
don't sue you when they're dead.
Yeah, it's hard to sue somebody. Yeah, if you're dead, exactly.
No,
Now,
their family might, but
that wasn't the only time this happened, though. It actually happened once in 1775 in the Commonwealth of Virginia, in Williamsburg, actually. The British had set up some of these shotgun traps.
Yes.
Let's see. So 2 men were breaking into the British military magazine, and it set it off, and it injured both of them. People lost their shit, dude. It was called the Gunpowder Incident. And people lost their shit. Everyone went wild about this. And the governor, Dunmore, had to flee the state.
Oh.
He was a British installed governor, and he had to get out. And they declared the Commonwealth of Virginia in a state of rebellion. That was basically the incident that set it off in Virginia. Nice. People lost their shit. But it also, the Berlin Wall. They had mines set up, but they also had these shotgun traps set up. And, it has killed people that tried to escape from Berlin in the 50s and 60s. So, I mean, it's not an uncommon situation. It's easy to set up. It's inexpensive. You don't even have to have an actual shotgun. You can just have a barrel and have it. You can build this at home. You can set this up at your house for probably $20-$30. Pretty cheap, man.
Yep.
So there's a lot of illegal stuff that you can do to protect your house. I just want to be clear that it's illegal. It's against the law. Don't get caught doing it. That doesn't mean you can't do it, though.
Well, Kevin, we all follow the laws.
It's only against the law if you get caught.
Oh, okay. So I should take that Hang on, I got a
Take this as legal advice.
wait. I actually have. All right, if you were watching this on YouTube right now, you would see that it says we are not lawyers. This is just entertainment.
Yeah.
In no way should anything Kevin said ever be taken as factual.
Right. This is not, I don't, everything I say is sarcastic, but also I'm a lawyer and this is legal advice. You should set up shotgun traps.
I needed a bigger graphic to put across the screen right now that I don't
Right.
have. I'm going to work on that for next week.
Mm-hmm.
I would say you want to make sure you like and subscribe while I'm throwing things up on the screen. That's always important and helps grow the channel.
Mm-hmm.
Keeps it worth our doing. We do a lot of cool stuff here and try and keep it awesome for you. Now, is there any way we could talk about maybe cutting a hatch in the floor, like some kind of escape? Do you remember what is it, Walking Tall with The Rock? What was the movie with the stick and
Dwayne
he's the
Johnson.
sheriff,
Yes.
Dwayne
Yes. I
Johnson
think it was Walking Tall. Yeah. And
and
that was a
Johnny
remake of
Knoxville?
another movie. I never saw the older one.
Yeah, the older one was good too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Buford T. It was, I forget what his actual name was, but it sounded like a real redneck name, the actual guy, because it
yeah,
was a real story.
yeah. And he cleaned up the town with a 4x4, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, hey, whatever it takes. But he ended up they were in a at the sheriff's office was like a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they had like a little hatch on the floor, and the basically the other sheriffs came and showed up. Buford Pusser, is that right? I don't know.
Sounds right.
I have no idea. But anyway, the other guys came up and they shot up the whole place. They went down through the floor and they hid out.
Mm-hmm.
I've often considered when the ATF shows up, that may be an option I want to have for my
Right.
house.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that movie about Ruby Ridge,
Right.
and I was like, hey, you got to keep your options open. Um, Even better if you can dig a tunnel to the barn or whatever that you can kind of
Yeah.
slip out. I don't know about the tunnel because that's more work than I'm willing to do. I don't know if you have a backhoe. I have a tractor with a bucket. I'm still not digging that tunnel.
Yeah.
That sounds like work. But
Now, do you remember
the
doing a
hatch would be good.
podcast? Yeah. Do you
We
remember
did
doing a
do a
podcast
I
about
did
the
do a
Mad
podcast.
Trapper?
Oh, the Mad Trapper, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So what he had done is they were coming out to him to his cabin, and he just dug a big hole in his floor because it was dirt floor.
Yes.
And they surrounded his house and just started shooting it up. And he just laid down in that hole there. And when they broke the door in, he was laying right there with a shotgun pointed at him and took a couple of people out and was able to actually escape from there.
Well,
So, I mean,
that's
it's
the
definitely
thing
an
is
option.
you can definitely make a trap door in the floor. And the thing is, like, it maybe doesn't have to be as secure as, hey, they're never going to find this. Or maybe it just has to be secure enough that they come in and look around the house and they don't
And
notice
see,
and you already got gone by then.
right.
And then an hour later, when they're like, where the hell do you go? Oh, look, there was a trap door under the rug over here. Well, yeah,
Mhm.
but you're already gone.
Right.
Like you're gone. And that's an option. You got to keep, that kind of thing going.
Yeah, I think that's there's a lot of options as far as that sort of stuff, those underground tunnels. And it's not like a made up thing. I mean, people have actually done this and had it work out, but
Yes.
a lot of people build those use those concrete culverts and the steel culverts and we'll just basically bury them under the ground. You want to find something that's designed for being buried under the ground. Connex boxes are not going to work, but those concrete culverts that they have for storm drains that are big, you can connect those, dig a big hole, connect them all together, and you're in business, man. Little tunnel out. You know who is always working on this shit? Crystal meth addicts. Because they're up 24 hours a day coming up with crazy ideas, thinking up crazy shit. And they're the ones that'll dig a tunnel out through the side of their basement and have the shit collapse on them and kill them,
Right.
If you ever want to have some crazy ideas or some crazy traps in your house, find some crystal crystal meth addicts because they're really into that stuff.
They're in it. They've already looked into this.
Yeah, I've found
All
all
right.
sorts of weird shit that druggies
And you
use
might be able to like
to do.
trade them a dentist visit
Mm-hmm.
for,
Yeah,
some work.
fix some
I
of
don't
those
know.
fucked up teeth. I don't know what you do. Yeah.
I'm a horrible person. Um, but hey, you got to keep your options open. The
Mm-hmm.
I know you remember they had that show Weeds, and they were talking later on, like one of the later seasons. They were talking about the tunnels underneath,
Mm-hmm.
going between Mexico and
Right.
the United States.
And
And
go
I
into the
mean,
basement
they're
of a
so
business in the
elaborate. They're
U.S.
hiring
Yeah.
like engineers, and you can
Right.
get
Right. And
really
they had
involved.
motorbikes and stuff in there because it was such a long run that it would take too long to walk it.
Yeah.
They
And
go
hey,
for
now that
miles.
we
Some
have
of
the
them are 8
electric
miles
Harley
in.
Davidson,
Mm-hmm.
your options are limitless.
Right. That's right.
Um,
You could go with a golf cart. Maybe you need a Harley though. I don't know what your life is like.
Kevin, if you're man enough that you drove or you created a giant underground drug tunnel from one country to another country, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like you should be riding a Harley. You're not like, hey, I'm a golf cart wearing a baggy pants and a little ball on your head like a
Right.
Scotsman. Come
Yep.
on.
Yeah. Well,
You
I
got to
mean,
own it.
yeah. It's not plaid, but I mean,
Oh,
sometimes,
it doesn't have to be plaid?
yeah. I mean, you can do like stripes, like a convict with the
Oh,
white,
well,
black,
then
and
it'd
white
be
stripes.
right.
Get fun with it. Be
All
crazy. I
right.
don't know what kind of apocalypse costume you have planned, but I fully support it.
All right. We got to keep our options open. So the hole
Hmm.
in the floor, definitely a good way to go. Um, yeah. I know you always like to mention other things with home security, like carbon monoxide and smoke detectors. I know that's a favorite of yours.
Yeah.
Um, the because that's all that's part of it. Is it's all about keeping your family safe, but really looking for ways to shore it up. I gotta say, learning to be proficient with firearms, learning to protect yourself, learning some self defense skills, learning to notice change,
Hmm.
pay
Right.
attention to what's going on. Hey, I've noticed there's a car sitting out, on the street by my house. That doesn't mean you have to call the cops or panic. It's just, hey, what's going on over there? Wonder
Yeah.
what that guy's about.
Yeah.
And
And
you just start to pay attention.
right.
That's
I
the
mean, there's
option.
there's things that happen that um increased chances of dangerous situations, and one of them is power outages. A lot of people
Yes.
think of that as like a shitty thing that happens that you have to deal with sometimes, but there are shitty people that look at that as an opportunity. You
Oh,
know what I mean? When there's all the lights are out everywhere, you can kind of creep around people's houses, and people do that shit. There's some people that are just disgusting people, and you
yeah.
know
See, I
they'll
thought the
they'll
opportunity was to do some shady electrical work without, but no,
yeah.
that's not. See, my mind goes different places.
Uh
I was like, hey, power's out. I can get right in the box and make some real changes here.
right, do some
That's,
work.
yep. I mean, yeah, they might turn it back on while I'm
At
working
any
on
minute, it might come back
it.
on, but that's all right.
That's the adrenaline. It keeps you
Yeah,
moving. And
that's what that's the fun part, right?
again, this shouldn't be construed as legal advice. I would also say it shouldn't be construed as good advice.
Right.
It's a crapshoot.
Yeah.
Take it
Yeah,
all with a
this is not
grain of salt. It's
a lot
what
of this is not just legally dubious,
it's
it's
just
just a bad
questionable.
idea, but I mean, whatever. Whatever.
Kevin likes to keep you guys sharp. You got to learn to pick and choose.
Yeah, if we don't convince
Every
somebody to do
episode is
something
like a
stupid enough
test.
that'll get them killed in every
Yeah.
episode, then it's not worth doing the podcast at all.
Every episode is like a test of your wits. Um, yeah, but that's, hey, to each their own. I would also say make sure your firearms and things are accessible. Make sure things are working like you thought they should be working.
Right. And if you have kids in the house, teach them about the gun. Don't
Gun
keep it like a
safety.
secret that seems super interesting that they want to find out about when you're not home. Teach
No,
them about
that's
it.
not the
Teach them
way to go.
how it operates, and teach them how dangerous it can be. Then they won't be, it's a kid could get in your car and crash into a tree and kill themselves, but they don't do that because cars aren't that weird. They're in cars all the time. They understand how it works and what it does. But a gun, man, that seems interesting. That's
That is
you don't see a
interesting.
gun very often when you're an 8, 9 year old. You know,
And
they should be aware that it's in your house and how dangerous it is and how it operates and all those sorts of stuff. You should be, if you have kids and you have a firearm, you should be teaching them firearm safety, whether they're big enough to use it or not.
now, I'm not sure if any of you guys know about Palmetto State Armory, but you might like to buy guns there. I like to buy guns there.
Hmm.
Um, they have an event called The Gathering, and they basically have a lot of the vendors that sell their products on their website come out and demo the new gear for the next year, and you actually get to shoot and try out some of the scopes and guns and triggers and awesome things that are out there. Maybe something that you're interested. Just saying, it's next weekend. You can go on their website, search it out. The reason I bring it up is because I'm going to be there, and you may want to look for me. And you could be like, hey, that's that guy with the dumb beard from the Survival and Basic Badass podcast.
Hmm.
All right, just a thought. I will actually try and get some video. I think I might even do the podcast from South
From the event.
Carolina. Anything's possible, or I'm gonna see what I can do. I don't know how the recording is gonna work and how it's all gonna play out, but I think we're gonna set something up. And yeah. Otherwise, you can follow us and see what's going on by subscribing to our email list at preppingbadass.com. You can get badass gear, but I don't know about our badass gear. I know that we have a coffee mug that's freaking awesome. Some of those shirts, I know that the design is spectacular.
Right.
I'm not sure that I maybe want to look for another vendor shirts, though. I do question the quality that the company puts out that's
Yeah.
manufacturing them. So you use your judgment on that at your own risk.
Yeah.
We need a micro dagger. I will check into this. Um, the Otherwise, I would say you can email us with questions, concerns, comments, preppingbadass@gmail.com. And with that, I would say stay safe, and we will talk to you guys next week. And I actually have to find the thing to end the podcast. I don't know where that is. Here we go.